Welcome to another episode of 30 Minutes with DailyStraits.com. This is your host, June Ramli. Our guest today is New Zealand-based entrepreneur Steve Pirie, the founder of Her and UnpluggedFiji. Steve is a serial entrepreneur who started working on his ventures at a tender age of 19. His naturally curious mind has led him to co-found and sell many successful businesses, including Unleashed Traveled, named by the BRW, one of Australia's 100 fastest growing startups businesses in 2011 and 2012, Nurture Change, Nurture Her, and UnpluggedFiji. Recently, Steve has fused his passion for events, mindset, education, travel, health, and wellness at Wander and Wonder, an ecosystem created to inspire a new way of thinking and a new way of being. His company brings together innovation, consulting, travel, and learning. His team collaborates with people and brands to unleash their most innovative ideas, events, and experiences. Steve also offers ideation and growth strategies sessions to startups and established businesses in the travel, events, and business space. Companies hack their naturally curious mind to get ideas and connection for your business and their lives. Without further ado, let's bring Steve to the show and ask him all things about his entrepreneurial journey to date. All right, sorry for the long introduction. You've done a lot of things. So hi, Steve. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah. Hey, June. Thank you so much for the time today. And appreciate diving in. That was a very long introduction. And sometimes we've just got to take a moment to recap on what we've done. So thanks for doing that. I appreciate it.
No worries. So let's dive right into the question. I just want to get it straight from the get-go. So what got you interested in being an entrepreneur in the first place? Because you had a pilot license and your father's an Air New Zealand pilot, so you could have just taken the easy route and got a cushy job in the pilot any airlines in the world, but instead you went into entrepreneurship at a very, very young age. So what was the thinking behind that?
Yeah, it's entrepreneurship. It's I suppose growing up with a family that we were fortunate enough to travel a lot through my younger years, and then also be posted to live in the Cook Islands, and I felt the sort of richness of travel and wonder and curiosity. You got to experience so many different ways of life, different ways of doing business, whether it's in the Mediterranean. We used to spend a fair bit of time each Christmas and just seeing the way of life in the Med, and the business and the micro businesses within communities really got me, I think, subconsciously excited at a young age to then naturally just flow into that path. But yes, aviation is deeply ingrained from my grandfather being a test pilot in the Air Force many, many years ago, through to Dad being with Air New Zealand. But yeah, I thought that would just be naturally the job. But I think when I got there, I got to the start line of Air New Zealand, and I saw a lot of bored people in the role, because yes, it's a cushy job, but it's a very structured routine. And that's when I sort of wandering curiosities in my blood as well, right? So entrepreneurship really started at a young age, subconsciously, and then it consciously came in sort of, between 15 to 18 when I got some amazing opportunities.
Yeah, all right. So I noticed most of your business offering are service and not product based. So my question would be, how do you validate these business ideas before going out to the market and making money out of them? So in those days before COVID, right, we could go out and speak to people. These days are quite different. So what did you do the last time? Because you started quite early after your job at Flight Center. You had an aha moment and you created a business. So what was that? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I think Flight Center, massive credit to them. They're an amazing company and organization. And as a travel agent, you get to really create dreams. Like, some people dream of that trip that they're going to take, and you literally take that dream and put it into reality. So that connection through listening and sharing stories with potential clients. I think that's what sparked me into creating service related businesses, because that personal connection is rich within me. So I love to learn off other people, and then, as I said, I love to help guide people as well, and that's what a travel agent, event producer does. And that started at Flight Centre and kind of leaned into my background in sports and events. So I really wanted to create an opportunity for young people my age to be able to go and celebrate at sports events and experiences all across the globe. So to create a service offering where we can make it affordable, accessible, and fun. That started very, very early at sort of 19, 20. So
you saw a gap, right? A gap in the market.
Yeah, definitely. There was, I can remember back in the day having a conversation and a pitch to a large New Zealand sports and events company that have been around for 40 years. And I remember the pitch was that they were like, a lot of our customers are dying or not being able to travel anymore. So that the $25,000 All Black tour, their clients were dwindling. So I sort of came into the market to say, me as a 25-year-old, yes, I want to go and see the All Blacks or go to the Australian Open, but I don't really need the champagne on arrival or the 5-star accommodation. I just want to be with a group of friends watching amazing sport and going to the pub afterwards. So that was that sort of catalyst that I could take that service offering to someone where the clients are potentially not able to travel anymore. So we're bringing in a new offering for them and a new client base as well. So yeah, definitely seeing the gap.
That's awesome. So you made 500,000 a year from that business, is that right?
Well, that kind of then took me into to Unleashed, which was the unicorn, I suppose, if we want to sort of classify it back in those days, where growing up in the Cook Islands, as I shared, and having that sort of Pacific cultural community vibe, and then also seeing what happens in the US, how school leavers celebrate and they go to spring break and they create these amazing experiences. And Australia have something called schoolies, where everyone descends on the Gold Coast. And here in New Zealand, we think schoolies, and it's like, that's not when we go to the Gold Coast. So I saw again an opportunity to go, well, let's create a safe environment on a tropical island in Fiji. Of course, all the school leavers would love to go on an overseas trip in Fiji. The parents who 50% of them were paying for these trips were like, great, they're on a safe island with the same aged group as well. So there was it was a great safety factor. So it was really a win-win. And that was just a unicorn. We would sell trips 18 months in advance in a week. And and it's still going to this day, which I'm extremely proud of, that my co-founder is still growing that business. So
got it. That's awesome. Okay, in the early days, you encountered a lot of failed moments. As described by you in a previous video, you had a 10 minutes video. I will link it in. What would you say to yourself? I mean, I was curious, because it was quite full on, those failed moments. And I was just curious, what did you say to yourself to overcome these adverse situation and keep moving forward and not looking backwards? If you'd like to share, I think one was when you were 16 and you were supposed to go to the Olympics, but then in the end, it didn't work out, right?
Yeah, this is very raw. I thought that video must have been lost in the archives and got to page 3. So congratulations for finding it and bringing it back to the service. It's sport was very much part of my life growing up, and education from a book and pen and paper was not for me. And my environment was sport and hockey, and was sort of always destined to go to the Olympics, and that was my drive. Made a very silly mistake and got caught up in smoking marijuana and literally got dropped, and my dreams and everything became an overnight failure. So I was that sort of person on the front page of the paper, and thank goodness there wasn't social media in that day. That would be a whole new level, right? Showing my age right now. We didn't have Facebook back in those days. How to pick myself up from there. And I suppose I was very lucky. Within any team sport, there's pretty amazing community around you. I was surrounded by older athletes, older players, and to be able to have the conversation about, yes, I stuffed up, I made a mistake. How do I sort of move forward? So it's that forgiveness piece where I just sort of talk about the 4 F's, right? It's the fear. We lean into the fear, and then sometimes we have failure, and then on the other side of that is like, how do we forgive ourselves or others and move forward? And that part didn't really come into sort of later down the track, where I could kind of go through that forgiveness part, and being surrounded by community and the sort of willing and the wise. I like to share in a lot of conversation is that we've got younger people that really inspire us and look up to us, and that sort of mentorship role from us kind of helps. But then there's the other side, which is the wise, which is the older generations that have gone through potentially the same 4 F's that we have. So surrounding yourself by that network where you have the safe space to be vulnerable and pick ourselves up. And yeah, on the other side of forgiveness is freedom, right? And that's why I went into entrepreneurship. And yeah, it's a good little toolbox that I have now moving forward, because there was some deep dark days back in those days. So
awesome. So you actually did a very good job in moving forward, and then you started many businesses, and you sold 2 of them by the time you turned 30. So I actually wanted to know, right? How do you know when is the right time to walk away from the ventures? Because you started everything from scratch. It was your own baby, but then you're selling it, So how did you know, like, what kind of methodology do you take before you decide to, sell and leave, like, completely?
I wish there was a secret formula that you could kind of literally go through the checklist. And I think there is for some people out there. But for me, the businesses that I've been part of have been, impact driven. And also, as you said, bringing it into the world. It was a baby, right? So I think for me, it's very energetic around, and the momentum as well. So just like when I got to New Zealand and I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be a very straight motorway without the opportunity for curiosity to try things and to be able to bring other ideas and experiments in. When that starts to slow down in business for me, I think that's not the best time and energy exchange for me, for the company and the organization. So it's best to get someone else in that can refuel the vehicle to take it forward, whether that's in that direction or the other direction. So for me, it was very much, okay, this has been a great run, momentum, the energy. My curiosity is leading me elsewhere. Can I find a buyer or someone to come into the company to keep propelling it forward? And I'm really grateful, and look back with Unleashed, is that there was a great buyer purchaser from Canada that is still fueling that company, and it survived COVID, which many travel businesses didn't, and is now on the other side ready to thrive again. So that's a pretty awesome legacy to kind of look back on.
Okay, in that note, how do you price a business for sale? Because you did say you partnered, you had a co-founder, right? So just to sell your share alone, right? Talk us through some of the motions. Like, this was not a public listed company, it's a privately owned. So how do you price your portion, and how do you find the buyer?
Yeah, it's how do we price? So looking at what else is kind of happening within our 1 degree in our industry, and seeing sort of what things are selling for, EBITDA ×3 ×5. And we're fortunate that travel was absolutely ramping when we sold back in the day. And we looked at the 3 years previous and 3 years forward and got some independent advice from outside to look at our books, because obviously as founders, we weren't pulling your typical CEO operation, CFO type wages. So we had to get those books aligned and then presented. And fortunate enough, our travel company had such great forward sales, like we would sell 18 months in advance, which is just unheard of in the travel industry unless you're going to a Rugby World Cup. So we did have great forward projections, which helped elevate our sort of multiple that we could get in the end. And then looked at the sort of 2nd degree, what else is selling in the service related space, and then kind of presented that. Looked at companies that there was 2 things that happened, was what companies are looking at entering into the Australian New Zealand market. We knew some successful companies that were doing similar to us in Australia and Europe. We kind of earmarked them, went to a conference, and as you do, have a few quiet ones and a dinner, and started to share more openly of what we're doing down here and what they do up there. We were very interested in their B2C model. We were very B2B. They were very excited about how do you get a B2B model so we don't have as much operating expense around. They had 72 staff that had to take phone calls, where we had travel agents selling our product and we only had 12. So there's a really beneficial win-win solution happening. So that was kind of the Unleashed exit that happened.
So, okay, for houses, we can go and put it on realestate.com.au. But for business, right, how did you find this guy? Like, those days you didn't have Facebook to even put like, hi, I'm selling my business,
We didn't even have LinkedIn either. So I
How did
love
you find?
jumping on.
Yeah. How did you
I love
find?
jumping on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love jumping on planes, and this thing we have, which is quite topical right now, the tall poppy syndrome in New Zealand, and I found it really hard to find people to celebrate success with in New Zealand. So I would travel to America. I was fortunate enough to play hockey in Europe, so I had sort of this global network of friends invited me to be a part of communities, and I'd go to conferences and events. I just love to be surrounded by other people doing great things. And that's when conversation started to open because of my curious nature. And that's how I found potential buyers in that business. And that's kind of reflected all the way forward. All my business acquisitions, startups, and exits are being through community, through conversation, and through a lot of lunches. So.
Oh, that's good. So people always associate entrepreneurship with being unemployed. So you're very successful, okay? You're from the start, you've been very successful, but not everybody is like you. They normally fail within the first 2 years and then they go back to a 9-to-5 job. So there's a lot of stigma attached to entrepreneurship, being unemployed, because you are working on your own time and you're doing stuff on your own time. And the first few months, you usually draw up your own savings to start things. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to ask you if you have any, what are your thoughts on this when people associate unemployment with entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it's about having to put a positive reframe on things. And I can say the last 2 years, if there was any top 5 industries that have been affected by COVID, it's been the travel and also the events industry. And yeah, the last 2 years, you really go into some soul searching paths around what is next. And you go, oh, maybe I should go and get employed. But just to know that, entrepreneurship, you're always employed. It is your baby. It's, I did have this conversation with my father-in-law. I'm like, oh, I feel like a part-time entrepreneur. And he's like, that's not true. If you're an entrepreneur, that you're either full-time or you're not an entrepreneur. So I think, belief is a big thing as well when you're kind of going through those dark, cloudy days where things are not performing, is knowing that it's only a weather pattern, and to surround yourself by good people to be able to support you through that weather system. If we use pilot as an analogy, turbulence is only temporary, flight is continuous, right? So I don't know if that was some interesting insights there, but that's kind of how I navigate.
So tell us about your business around Wander and Wonder. So it started in 2017. It's still going strong until today. So basically, right, it's actually a place where startups go and, they go for boot camps and figure out what they want to do. Is that how it is supposed to be, or is there something else to it?
Yeah, Wander and Wonder. It's just it's a catalyst with a question mark at the end that stirs conversation like these ones. For us, it's a way of life. The way me and my fiance live is there's the Wonder side of the business, which is the pink, which is her. And when we first met, it was she does amazing things around design thinking and getting people to think differently, growth mindset, appreciative inquiry. And my side was the Wonder side, the curiosity, the travel, the new environments, the community. And when we got together, we're like, well, actually, this is just the way we live our life. And a lot of people have been to our events and experiences that we've created and sold, whether it's Nurture Change or Nurture Her, and then the events that we run for other communities. So people come in there and they are inspired to sort of take action, to learn, to evolve through the conversations and through the environments that we create. And obviously the last 2 years, we haven't been able to create the wander to new destinations and environments, because right now that's where we feel like we get the biggest wins and the momentum, where people can step out of their busyness. Like right now we're in this COVID hybrid model, and there's actually no clearly defined lines between, I think, home life, work life, office, and we're seeing that people are just starving to get out into these new environments. So we managed to be able to pivot to create these online spaces for organizations and community to come into the Zoom room and to have these vulnerable conversations in a safe space, which we thought, I don't know if this is going to work, but it actually saved a lot of communities, a lot of businesses, because they felt like they could still be on the computer like we are here, but we can have a pretty open conversation, and we can then bring in speakers or tools or health and wellness that people can take away off that Zoom call, that environment, and take it back into their work life and their personal lives to not only just survive, survive through COVID, but also thrive out the other side. So
awesome. So how does it monetize? And do you have competitors in New Zealand, or are you the only one?
I think there's many experimental agencies out there, marketing agencies, HR agencies, but we like to not clearly define ourselves because the only thing that is constant right now is change. So we are sort of agile in the way that right now, Sarah, my partner, is back in the corporate world, taking the design thinking and the design work that she's done back into corporate New Zealand. And so we're doing this sort of inside outside approach, whereas sometimes it's so hard to get into these corporate organizations because they don't see sort of value in curiosity, wonder, and what might be fluffy topics, but right now they're actually moving things forward in the design sphere. So yeah, to define something right now, I don't think is in our best interest, but what is performing on the outside is right now travel is reopening, and Island in a Box, which is an offering we have to take all our wisdom from bringing people together, communities together in environments. The window is open now, and what has people missed most over the last 2 years is connecting with family, connecting with their team that are potentially spread between Australia, US, and New Zealand. They haven't seen each other for 2 years. So I have not been this busy in my life with co-creating these environments, whether it's in Croatia or Fiji or America or Australia. So right now we're focusing on that and monetizing that by taking the pain points out of businesses about bringing people together. They right now are just trying to survive and thrive out there. The other side of it, they don't have the time or the resources to really focus on community and events and experiences. So we just have a turnkey solution, and that's why we call it Island in a Box. It's literally a box. We package it up, and they just arrive and they're looked after.
Oh, okay, great. So you charge them according to the packages that they take, like workshop, half a day, a full day, or if it's a weekly. It's kind of everything goes in together with the food, travel.
Exactly. So we do some like half day or 1 day design thinking workshops, or right now burnout is very topical. So we have the great thing with Wonder and Wonder, we have a global community of these thought leaders in the space that are contractors such, and we bring them in when we need them. So yeah, whether it's a half day or full day around resilience, around burnout and hybrid workspaces, we can be agile and bring that in. The good thing is we can deliver it to clients across the globe. So we've gone from a business that just delivered physical workshops in New Zealand and Australia to, you know what, our client reach has just gone global. And I think there's many silver linings to what COVID has given us through this time. And if we can put some positive reframes, we can be the biggest exporter of innovation, because we've got this thing called Zoom. So service related businesses can really, see some great growth opportunities. So we package that up. And then if people want to then do the international stuff, we have great relationships with Fiji, with over 35,000 people that have been through our experiences in Fiji. We work very closely, and we have a charity up there that we really just package everything up. So then the client pays X and we pay Y, and that's where our margin and our efforts kind of sit in that sweet spot.
Awesome, sweet. Okay, so entrepreneurship is a pretty hard gig to do, and it always seems that the men folks are the one making it big, or even staying in the game long enough before some of them give in and look for a regular 9-to-5 job. Again, it's back to the same question about, entrepreneurship and unemployment. So on that note, right, since you have 2 daughters, would you encourage your girls to dabble into entrepreneurship? Because it's a tough gig, but what do you think?
I truly think I support and kind of give them the curiosity and wonder to try as many things as they can. Like, our 2 oldest daughters are 9 and 8 at the moment, and one is already an entrepreneur because she likes to see and solve problems. So Sienna created an awesome company called No Litter Glitter. We just kind of put the question out there. We love to have questions over dinner. So it's like, what's upsetting you right now, and how would you like to change it? And I remember Sienna was like 6, I think it was, and she's like, I don't like war, I want to stop war. And we're like, wow, that's a big comment coming out of a 6-year-old around the dinner table. And we're like, well, why are you upset about war? She's like, and she's from Australia, and she was like, all the refugees that are coming into Australia, they don't have homes, they leave families behind. And we're like, wow, tears flying at this stage. And she's like, well, what would you like to do? And she's like, I'd love to give them some play or some glitter or something. We're like, well, glitter's not the best thing for the environment. The amount of times I've got plumbers out to the house to unplug drains with glitter, we like, well, maybe there's a biodegradable glitter, and we found it. It's 98% biodegradable, and she put it on Kickstarter, I think it was, and she had to fund the first $2,500 to get a first batch. And we just put it out through our network and our awesome community, and we had like 120 people from 16 countries raise the $3,500, and now she's had her podcast, right? So I think entrepreneurship, if you can at least give them some opportunities to try it while they're young, they might end up being a doctor, and that's okay. But I feel like just being able to give them the opportunity. There's going to be more entrepreneurs which are working within corporates, and then I think this agile way of working, like to expect loyalty out of the next generation of workers. I think they're going to be working on 4 or 5 things at once, and that's okay.
That's a really cool answer. So is she still doing it, your daughter?
She is, yeah. We had the school market the other day, pre-COVID, and she sold $600, and that donation went back to the school. And because we've got 5 kids and it's a blended tribe, like her way of that entrepreneurship has led to my older daughter, who's interested in writing a book for the first time around saving the planet, and that was sparked by the inspiration of her sister. And now it's the younger sister, who's 5, wants to create baby scrub play, which is so it's like being surrounded by kids that are trying things. That they haven't lost their curiosity and wonder at school. And I feel like as adults, sometimes we need to go back to the school playground and get into the sandpit and give it a go and try some things, and that's okay. And I think kids give us, like I say, the willing and the wise. Well, sometimes the kids are the wise ones, right? It's like, well, they're having a great time. They're trying a lot of new things. They're not really worried about failure because they haven't been part of society for too long, that they've got this whole stigma around failure. They just see it as a lesson. So the willing and the wise is not defined by age, color, or background, right? It's it can come from both sides of the ledger.
Awesome. That's great insight. Thank you for sharing. So that is all the time that we have for today. We have just been speaking to Steve Pirie, the founder of Wander and Wonder. Thank you, Steve, for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Awesome. So the pleasure is all ours. Be sure to join us in the new year as we aim to interview more awesome entrepreneurs in this series created exclusively for you by dailystraits.com. Thank you.